Dear Mrs. Matas, thank you very much for giving us this interview. I would like to start maybe with the first question. It's the role of the OSCE within this war, which is happening in Ukraine since February this year, but also maybe beyond. How will the role of the OSCE work and how will it be shaped after this conflict? Because many were arguing that the role of the OSCE has somehow lost its meaning throughout the last years. So maybe to reflect a bit about this.
Well, thank you very much for your question, and I think that it's very important that we basically discuss those issues right now. That is true that OSCE is in a very difficult situation. We don't see many exchanges happening, and this is the organization that has always been very politicized, and of course in the current context of the war in the heart of Europe, this trend is there. OSCE is not the only multilateral organization which is in a difficult situation right now. We can even talk about the crisis of multilateralism. In my opinion, this organization needs to be maintained and preserved as a future space for dialogue, even though now we cannot discuss even the concept of dialogue. It's considered to be a taboo, and sometimes is seen as a reward for the Russian Federation for its good behavior. But I think we should use dialogue as the tool for diplomacy, and at some point when the hot phase of this war is over and the parties are ready to come back to the negotiation table and also to discuss the future of European security, these safe spaces for dialogue like the OSCE would be key.
Thank you very much. The second question would be about the European security structure or architecture itself. So many would say that it's really damaged in the last 6 months, especially with the war in Ukraine and generally all the other conflicts. But let me ask you, how was the answer of this European security structure when the war began? How would you describe this? How would you also describe the future of this European security architecture after the war ends, or even with the war becoming an indirect war, a silent war, a cold war? What can we expect?
Well, I think we still have a European security order right now, but this European security order is clearly dominated by the concept of deterrence. We see the massive increase in defense budgets across the European states, and clearly the concept of cooperative security is in a very difficult situation right now. And then when we discuss the European security order, we should also acknowledge that it already was in a rather difficult position before the 24th of February, and maybe if we would like to think about sustainable solutions, we would need to think also about some of the lessons learned before the 24th of February. One of those is that we would at some point need to address the existing dilemmas of the European security, and its fundamental dilemma between the indivisibility of security and freedom to choose your security alliances. And when we will be ready to acknowledge and to think about reconciling these dilemmas, it will inevitably bring us to discussing the status of the so-called in-between states in Europe, but also when Russia will be ready to play along the international rules and regulations, think which role Russia could play in the new European security order. Right now, these discussions are hard to imagine, but I think that it is still possible to hold those dialogues on the level of experts, that so-called track to come back to come with some ideas and to prepare basically for this moment. Then the states will be ready again to discuss.
Thank you very much for the interview.
Thank you.